Virginia seems pretty fucked. Virginia Supreme Court struck down Democrats' redrawn U.S. House maps. Late last week, a 4-3 ruling that said that the state's Democratic-led legislature violated procedural requirements when it placed the constitutional amendment on the ballot to authorize mid-decade redistricting, which voters approved earlier this year. The reaction within the Democratic Party has been a bit of a shit show, but Republicans are feeling good. Matt Gorman, a Republican strategist, said, "This is the best week our party's had all year," which again is like, it's like, you have to step back to like where we are here, which is like Republicans, James Blair specifically, cooked up an idea to re-rig the maps to spare themselves of a midterm. They won a couple of differential court cases. And they're like, this is the best week we've had in years, baby. You know, like,
yeah, they're like, sure, all the voters hate us, but what if we didn't have the voters?
What if we just got rid of the voters?
That's their best week.
It is like, I don't know, like it's like a zoom out, like dissonance moment where you're like, wait, like, we're talking about the politics of like fucking just redrawing the country to remajigger democracy so that like voters don't get to actually have competitive elections anymore. And we're like, the horse race is crazy on this. And it's like, what the fuck are we doing? States rushing to redistrict red states. This is from Kalshi. 71% odds Missouri redistricts, Alabama 68%, 62% in South Carolina.
And there's, by the way, I earlier just like did show more markets. There's like 30 states on there now.
Yeah.
Like they're like, oh, maybe Wisconsin will do it. Maybe like everyone's going to do it.
Yeah. South Carolina actually circulating a plan to district out Jim Clyburn. So there would be no Democratic seats at all in the wake of the Clay decision. So pretty bad if you're Democrat. So, you know, sure, celebrations and bad politics, but like, fuck, pretty bad. You know who is celebrating this week? The vindicated Jesse Lehrich.
Redistricting is going to come out in a wash where Republicans gained a few seats in Texas. We gained some in California and Virginia. Like, stop. You know, we should try being popular and having people who are good at talking. And then maybe we can win elections in normal districts. I was like the only Democrat in America that was like kind of annoyed by it from the outside.
So congratulations, Jesse Lehrich. The courts gave you your way.
This is not my way. Part of my point was that Democrats had spent $60 million fucking on that redistricting initiative that just got struck down. And we knew that there were legal questions throughout the entire process.
Do you think that was a mistake? Would you have done that again?
No, I wouldn't have done it in the first place.
I
would not have done it in the first place. I would have spent the $60 million rallying people behind Democrats' policy agenda and commitment to combating corruption and et cetera, et cetera. Of course, that would necessitate a Democratic agenda or like policy priorities or anything that we stand for at all. So like, again, I understand that the situation is fucked and they are stealing seats left and right. And of course, I get the rationale behind we need to fight back with everything we have. Also, they're going to go back to the old maps now. Currently, Virginia's 6-5. I would say Democrats are, in my mind, favorites in 2 of the currently Republican-held seats. That would be Virginia 2 is Jen Higgins, and she's running against Elaine Luria, former Congresswoman. In Virginia 1, Rob Whitman is running against Shannon Taylor, another really good candidate. Both of those were within 5 points, the Trump-Harris margin there. We should be easily winning those races, frankly. And I think that Tom Perriello is still going to run in Virginia's 5th district, and I think he can take out John McGuire. So that would be 3 of the 4 that we would have spent $60 million on, you know, the redistricting initiative. Obviously, that's dissatisfying, but also, like, I look at this from, like, one, we are going to win the House in 2026. I just fundamentally believe that. I do not think that has changed. We will probably win it by like a slightly smaller margin now that they have successfully stolen a bunch of seats and are going to steal a bunch more.
I just think we had to do what we had to do in the situation. We had to spend the money we needed to spend in order to redistrict and where we could. You know, I don't necessarily know that it's a waste. The court's going to do what the court's going to do, but I do think that then if you spent $60 million to be in a situation where the courts overrule you, you have to finish that job and you have to do what you need to do to expand the court, pack the court, win the fight, because you're in all the way. And Democrats in Virginia and in D.C. are trying to grapple with what to do in real time. I have an article this morning from Reed Epstein in the New York Times indicating there was a private discussion on Saturday, including Democratic House members from Virginia and Speaker Jeffries, venting anger at the Virginia Supreme Court and speaking about a collective determination to do, as Jesse said, to flip the 2 or 3 Republican-held seats under the existing map, and discussed a bank shot proposal to redraw congressional lines anyway, though they did not land on any specific plan. And so, I thought it might be interesting to dive through what the options actually are for Democrats. And the first, vote harder. This seems to be the Spanberger strategy. More than 3 million Americans cast their ballots in Virginia's redistricting referendum. She tweets, she's disappointed by the Supreme Court's ruling, but her focus on governor will be ensuring that all voters have the information necessary to make their voices heard in November. Igor Bobek from Notice now, right? He's at Notice?
Yeah, that's correct. Soon to be the Washington Star.
Right, the star. Dem response to VA court decision is telling people to turn out and vote, even though they just did it and it didn't work. Is that fair?
Yeah, there's no good options here. Vote harder, not a super compelling plan. I think nobody is more upset by how this is all played out than Abigail Spanberger, who clearly never actually wanted to do this in the first place and then was like, fine, I'll pour all my political capital into it, eked out a very narrow win on it, only to have the courts be like, yeah, that doesn't count for anything. She's like, cool, vote again.
Spent my entire legislative session on that. The next option seems to be pack the court, and there's some indication that may be where this is going. Matt Iglesias saying, don't know what the mechanisms are, but these Virginia judges need to go. And this account, Statistic Urban, has been really covering the hell out of this.
Trustworthy. We know nothing about who this is.
Exactly. But the Utah GOP sued federally to block the new map, packed the Utah Supreme Court, creating brand new justices. They created a constitutional court panel that will hear challenges to state law to circumvent the Supreme Court altogether. And so there's this indication Republicans are playing some hardball. Why can't we? And the hardball that has been proposed was in the down ballot late Friday night, which basically suggested that we take the retirement age for judges down via the legislature to below the age of all of the justices, the younger being 54. So you take it down to 53. Clear them out, put on a bunch of new justices. And there is some indication that this had some purchase in the meeting with Jeffries. They sort of had a two-step plan that they were considering, which was invoking a January ruling by a circuit court judge saying that a 2026 constitutional amendment to draw the map was invalid because the county officials did not post notice of it. Use that ruling to seek to invalidate the earlier amendment that created the state's independent redistricting commission, and then move to take the age of the justices down to 53. And again, back to Statistic Urban, Supreme Court packing in states. Arizona moved it from 5 to 7, Georgia 7 to 9, Utah 5 to 7, and killing nonpartisan elections in other states. Where do you net out on this, oh hater of redistricting?
Yeah, I would not say that only pre-bar mitzvah youth can be Virginia Supreme Court justices is a super compelling pitch to me.
But we have to. There's no, to me, you are in so far on this. You have to do what you have to do in order to get this done. And at that point, that is a good option. There are no good options. But the Republicans have done this in 3 fucking states. Why shouldn't we be doing that?
Why don't we just win the seats? Win the seats. We can win 3 of the 4 seats by having a better message than
that's one seat we can't. And then they are going to plus up in all of these other seats.
I just do not think the end game of this, of both of us going all in to try to maximize the number of seats. And I don't think this is a net victory for us. I'm not fundamentally against court packing. I don't think it's crazy to say we should expand the Supreme Court from 9 to 13. I don't think that's crazy. We can do that. We can get rid of the filibuster and expand the Supreme Court to 13. We can expand the House to, instead of being capped at 435, which is actually fucking insane. And we should have at least twice as many members of the House so that people can actually represent a reasonable number of constituents as James Madison and George Washington wanted. I think that's all reasonable. And you can do it all with fucking 50 votes in the Senate if you get rid of the filibuster. I'm lowering the age of the Supreme Court justices in Virginia to 14 and a half or whatever the fuck they want. It's just ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. And it's all around this entire exercise of what the Republicans are doing, what the Democrats are doing is terrible for the country.
Yes.
But that's unilaterally disarming.
But there is a fundamental difference between the two parties, which is that they wish to convince the American people that indeed American democracy does not work. Democracy is a stupid system and everyone in it is corrupt. And we are we would like to prove that true. It's tough, but when you're
they're shoving us in a fucking
locker. It's easier
locker.
to fucking tear things down than it is to build things up, and it sucks being the ones that want to prove that democracy can function so that we can have government who do big things. But
we'll never have government that can do big things if we're not in power in some places.
Yes,
and this is gonna accelerate. They are in charge of more stuff than we are.
We should be winning 60+% of the electorate in these elections and nationally. And if you win 60% of the electorate, like there's no amount of redistricting that you can do. Even a lot of the districts that the Republicans have drawn for themselves, they're going to lose some of those districts because like nobody wants what they're selling. And like, I would much rather figure out how you fucking create a party that has such a better pitch to like help deliver on the material needs of working class Americans such that we win 65% in these elections and we can actually do big things than like fucking spend $65 million trying to buy one seat in Virginia with a teenage Supreme Court.
I just think I lost my train of thought.
I win. Anyway. I rest my case.
Nobody knows anything.